Okay, if everything is right, we are live now here, Sunday evening. I even forgot about the date, but it's masterclass time for the first two sonatas by Mozart. And if we speak real time, I'm going to access my own live stream and chat, which I've always difficulties with on this tablet. It's something you cannot learn because it's only to be practiced if the live stream is on. So I'll try to access the chat, and if that works, that would be great. Anja is sitting there, and it's working from the first time. Here it is. Just to rotate the screen, and now access the live chat. Wow, Anja is sitting right over there, so I can see her. You can't. I will not turn the webcam because it's a big mess on our table. Martin, welcome. Nice to have you here. And Robin, always nice to have you here. It's kind of small community now here around the live sessions. Really like that. So I'm going to talk about the first two sonatas, going just through those pieces, a little bit improvisational. We'll be talking about movement, tempo a little bit, notation, accentuation, a little bit about the technique, some expressions, some things that I like very much about the music, things like that. If you have questions, Dustin, welcome here. Isliat, I hope I pronounced your name well. Will be a masterclass of 282. We're going to cover tonight 279 and 280. I believe 282, that's a G major, isn't it? No, it's the E flat major. Either we had it last month or we didn't do this piece. That's something I should look up. For today, it's the first two. We definitely will come back in the future on the Munich sonatas. So, but if you have specific questions on that sonata, don't hesitate and leave it in the chat. Anja is monitoring that. Sometimes the chat gets really crazy, but she's managing to get all questions that I need to read on the top of my attention. Not my attention, but you know what I mean. And we can cover the fourth sonata if you would like to ask something about that. So Carol, great to have you here. And my mother is also on the chat. That's always a good sign for her. So my tablet will be here. I won't be reading it constantly because it will keep me out of my focus. Let us... Daniel Zeppelin, good afternoon from Monterrey City, Mexico. Wonderful. It's unbelievable, this YouTube live. How many people you can reach worldwide, mind-blowing. So okay, if you would like to ask a question, don't hesitate to put it in the chat and just leave it there, even when I'm talking, because the live stream typically is between 10 seconds and 1 minute, has a delay of that time. So certainly at the end I'm reading your questions, but sometimes I see people asking a question after I've turned the live stream off. So don't hesitate to just do it on time, and certainly we'll pick up with that. So Martin, very different sonatas. I found 279 really hard to get a feel for it. Yes, I can understand why, and we're going to cover that specifically. It was the same for me. So let's start with the first movement of the 279. All these sonatas, Munich sonatas, are mind-blowing pieces, certainly if you put them in the right perspective. Remember, he was 18 years old and influenced by the big masters like Joseph Haydn, Michael Haydn. He traveled, Wolfgang, to Paris, to Italy. Really, he drank this cantabile opera style, which was throughout all his life, I believe, is real love the opera. And in that time you see the gallant style like Haydn and also C.P.E. Bach maybe is introducing. In fact, you could say old Father Bach is starting with that perhaps. So, but anyway, Mozart adds in these pieces 70, 75, something extra that others are doing as well, but he is bringing it really to another level. Cantabile style, maybe not in the first movement of this 279, which we're going to cover, but certainly in the middle sections. And there is something special about these pieces. So, hi Andy, good to have you here. Let's start with the first sonata. The most difficult beginning of all the 6 sonatas is the first movement of the first sonata, and I explain you why. And maybe that's exactly the feeling what Martin is talking about. So if you start and listen what happens. I do it again. I have the feeling that there's so many things happening. Slow down, or either give me the time to understand what you're doing, because the beginning is really a lot of energy. So you have this jump, this chord that is really with an arpeggio. It's not really a jump, but you have an octave jump, and then starts on the right hand a kind of solo voice. And immediately you get the feel that the music is starting. If I just wait a little bit, and by the way, the score, if you would like to follow, there is a link in the description for download on IMSLP, die Urtextausgabe, so die neue Mozart-Ausgabe. So if I start with assuming that the beginning is an orchestra, which gives an effect, and that was really appreciated a lot in Mannheim, this kind of abrupt fortis. They even had a name for that, I believe. I forgot what it was. So he starts with a chord. Then you need time to introduce this voice. And again, there you have already the cantabile style. So how do we glue that together, so to say, without losing the pulse? Because of course it's a four bar structure, and we shouldn't break too much, because if we do this, the rhythm would be out of the piece. So what do I do? It's 2 things. The choice of tempo is incredibly important. This is an allegro movement that you cannot take too fast. And it's nothing to do with the metronome numbers. I'm just talking about the effect now, the understanding of the music and the notation. If you take it too fast, there is no escape from going over that first chord to the beginning. So and then it's so difficult to make a story of that. So tempo is important, because you need to have a tempo that gives you the flexibility to just wait a little bit, like this. And now we can do it a little bit less, but with the same emphasis. Even a little bit slower. And then the left hand, which is always important in that music, certainly with Mozart. Listen what the left hand does here. Makes a kind of continuation. If I play just soft, then you have always only the focus on the right hand. But if I really give an impulse in the left hand, and also there I can give a little bit of, it's not rubato, tom, pom, pom, pa, da, 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 tom. I've been talking about that in the video, but I don't know if it's online yet. It's this kind of timing of rubato feel. It's not in the 18th century context of rubato, because rubato, as we use today, in the 18th century meant There's a famous quote by Mozart where he played on the left hand just steady in tempo, and the right hand he had a kind of coloratura movement that people say you can play out of the bar in the right hand and in the bar in the left hand. And he was surprised that people find that strange. Thing he meant by that is that's the real meaning of rubato. That's playing in the right hand, for instance, 7 notes in the quarter time, and in the left hand just in 8 notes. And then the 7 or the 8 or the 11, Beethoven would expand on that, would come right on time with the next bar. That's a kind of rubato. But what I mean now is by it's time stretching more. It's like you have this, I cannot compare it better than to a football. You throw it in the air, you give energy to that. So you throw the ball in the air and it gives an energy, it has a speed, and it slows down, and it comes inevitably to a point where it stops. But the moment where that stops, that movement, you feel already the energy for the ball going down. And so you go up, you stop. But where is that point that turns and that the energy takes down? So once you understand there's a circular movement, it goes up and it goes down. It's extremely important in the slow movements, we're going to see that. But throughout, was somebody writing, you have some risky rubato, it was a very positive comment, so it was a compliment. But that's true, because if you just play it strictly in the bar, like a metronome would guide you, this music would become, I wouldn't say boring, it's Mozart, but you would miss something. I will explain. So the chat is already, and I clicked on the wrong video now. It's already disappearing. So I hope to catch up with you. I will read it when we finish this first movement. So there I go. So energy. I wait a little bit, then comes the solo voice, and I go back to the energy for the second chord on the second bar. And here comes a passage where you just can continue in a normal bar structure, so normal tempo, normal heavy beat structure. So I start again and then we continue. Then you feel the difference between the first 4 bars and the next bars. And I think to answer Martin's question, that's the solution for this piece, to model the first 4 bars really, not like an improvisation, but really like to have the division between first orchestral sound, solo voice, orchestral sound, solo voice, and have this stretch of timing in between. Okay, so you see the difference, you see the contrast, the beginning and the rest. So also articulation, of course, I shouldn't tell, but the difference between this is very nice. Yeah. And even in Neue Mozart gives little strokes, so Strich in German, which means not only articulated, staccato, it's not staccato, it's more an accentuated note that it's not legato. So every note should have its own weight. So not just short, but with a little bit of arm weight. In fact, what your hand is doing is giving little pulses in and out. And now legato, maybe even over legato. Contrast, piano. Also here, the music can just comes to a still, to a stop, a kind of ending. I believe you can take your time with those and on those moments. Also here in this bar with the trill. So remember, I've said a lot that Leopold Mozart gives in his Violinschule this beautiful quote where he says, every piece has these moments, these fragments, these bars where you as a player can feel there is a kind of maximum limit of what you can reach in tempo to play the piece comfortably. So here you have a trill indicated on a 16th note. That certainly is a kind of gives a limit on your tempo, because a trill starts with the upper note, as Leopold Mozart writes, and I believe that these Munich sonatas are really, you could connect them to Leopold Mozart still very much, although it's very complicated matters. But the 16th note with the trill, it's a kind of limit. Reflection, tension also, so I should not rush to the next note, just let the music hold still. It's really storytelling. Question, answer with the left hand. It's actually not an answer with the left hand. Left hand gives a kind of additional meaning to that question. Answer. Very friendly. Also here, very fine, take your time for this trill. And then the left hand legato. Ta-dum, ti-dum, ti-dum. It's all these fine microscopic movements like that. And so many shades and differentiations in articulation. It becomes clear. Then beautiful. And I should give also the right hand here the freedom. That's the kind of rubato. Left hand just continues, but then also with this timing, stretching thing. Imitation left hand. Ta-dum, ta-dum, ta. Not rushing. And suddenly piano, forte. Ending. Also here give meaning to those 16 notes as a bow. Bow ends, 16 note with a strich. Tom. It's kind of weird. But don't play it like that. Because that's not written. I would consider this piece also to be a very slow allegro. So allegro doesn't mean fast, it means lively. Just check if you have some things on your hearts or minds to ask me, and then we can continue. Okay, I don't see burning questions. Okay, but I'll check later again. So then comes the middle section, of course, with the lasagna, with the same patterns. I have made some ornaments there. think that Mozart will never have played his music the same. And I didn't apply all the ornaments that I had in mind. A little bit out of stress for the recording. There are two cameras running simultaneously with the sound, and I know that if I mess things up, I have to edit it out and things like that. So I usually hold back a little bit. I shouldn't do that, but it's like that. There is a very beautiful passage here. Also here the dissonance. And I don't think you can exaggerate on these accents. And here. And here gives a bow. So all these articulations that he indicates, it's really nice. Of course, on an early keyboard, it works great on the pianoforte as well. So that direct input, you can direct speed to the sound. So okay, let's move on to the second movement because. A few questions, okay.
No questions from Box.
Yeah, Philip Daniel, J.S. Bach's Klaviertoccatas, the timing and phrasing reminds, yeah, maybe. I think I apply that same technique of that ball throwing up and that circular, I do that certainly in the sarabandas. I think it sometimes feels essential to the music. It's moving and it's steady at the same time. Normally I do it just unconsciously, so but here in the Mozart, again, beginning of the first movement of this sonata, it's difficult to have it right. That right in the sense that you have the feeling that things are on its place, that you display them in a way that people can understand them and that they have time, that your audience has time enough to really understand one figure and then continue to the next one. Yeah, the Alberti bassi, like Martin is asking, they serve two things. Of course, a rhythmical pattern, also relaxation. Certainly here Mozart uses it as a genius after the first 4 bars, where you just start in a contrasty way. But second thing, there is a bass note, and if you have an instrument on harpsichord, of course it's more difficult, maybe even impossible, but on a clavichord or a pianoforte or a piano, don't forget to make the bass separate from the rest. So the bass is extremely important because it gives not only the harmony but also the pulse. Okay. Yeah, Karel, the clavichord, it's not a copy. Aina told me that I should answer your question of last time. It's not a copy, but it's a Saxon instrument very close to Federici instruments. So Mozart had a Federici clavichord, and you could say if that instrument would be next to this one, it would be hard to see the differences. But it's not a copy, so Potvliege did change some things, not to modernize, but this instrument could have been built in the 18th century, but it's not a strict copy. So you see some differences in the bridge and things like that. So minor differences, personal touches, so to say. Okay, then we go to the Andante, which is one of those middle sections that are really changed compared to my previous recording that was and still is on YouTube. I've made that, I believe, more than 2 years ago. And to my surprise, the re-recording of that piece lasted in duration 5 minutes longer than the previous one. So I'm getting old, I think. But most of that, I didn't listen to that older recording. I never do. It's not a source of inspiration for me to listen to earlier recordings by myself. I need to figure it out every time again. Certainly if it's so long ago, 2 years ago was long enough to just have me figure it out again. But the middle sections, I'm really going through a process now. I've covered some elements of that also in the Beethoven video of today, of the Grave. it's related to that metronome theory, and as I've been repeating a lot, sometimes people react in a way that I play according to the metronome numbers. That's never the case. You can check that. But I actually played that music, and certainly Mozart, in a way, before I even knew about that double beat theory. I was just very happy to learn about, even in the 80s, 90s, when I was in Amsterdam, about the double beat metronome theory by Talsma, which is in fact a variable use of metronome, which Lorenz Gradient recently in his book really clearly stated that there is not such thing as variable use of metronome. So it's either double, it's either single, and that's something I think is a very important statement. But for the fast movements, feels very natural to just half tempo, and sometimes you have of course the tendency to play a little bit faster or slower. The differences are not big. And for me, certainly coming from mainly the organ class of Jacques van Nootmessen, where we certainly played according to tempi that really reflect the Czerny's Bach numbers that, even today, I think generally people find that extremely fast, but approached metrical, so double. You come in the field of the tempo ordinario, really related to what we still are used to hear Bach in. Some players, and certainly pianists, play it much faster, but there is not much of a shock to enjoy. I've made a video on that as well. But for the middle sections, so many still stick to that double variable use of the metronome. But for me, the metronome is just a way of checking. I mean, those speed indications are given by, and for Mozart we don't have any original, but for people very close to that time. So it's really interesting to look at it. It's primary information sometimes, if you go to Beethoven or Mozart or Czerny and others, whom will give also speed indications. But it's not a recording, but it's something very close to, I mean, those were their tempi, and we can talk about this for ages, but there are so many of those metronome numbers, literally thousands, if not 10,000s, and even if you go to the 18th century, you have these pendulum notations, which are completely in the same line. You have Quant's descriptions of tempi, which are very close to what Czerny gives on Bach. So, but for the middle sections, I typically had much difficulties in playing that slower than I felt. So I forced myself a little bit now to take those numbers seriously, because if you advocate, I'm not advocating that theory, but there is something in it that needs to be shared, because, and we will cover that more in the future, you will see it, then I should be consequently with myself and go a step further and see what that theory does with the middle sections. And it was not easy for me, but I've said it in a recent video, and then we come to this andante, the adagio of the sixth sonata, so the last part, the variations. That was for me something that opened my eyes, because of playing that, what afterwards appeared to be metrical understanding of the numbers by Mozart and Czerny. They are both the same, even for that andante, adagio. So I applied it also for this andante. Czerny gives a little bit faster tempo than Mozart. I was really happy with that. Mozart is really slow, but Czerny is 72 for the dotted quarter note. It's a tempo like this. Essential here, you have a notation 3/4, so very natural, very normal. There's nothing special on the notation. You have a triplet structure in the left hand, but typically an andante today is often seen as a kind of course it's an imitation of moving, but not as a slow movement. And if you read sources like Hummel Piano School and earlier sources as well, Czerny even, they give andante in the category of slow movements with adagio. So things start in the fast category from allegretto. So in between andante and allegretto you have the tempo giusto, the tempo ordinario in fact. So that's the normal old tempo from about a second for a quarter note in a normal tempo, which is 4/4, 16th notes, fastest note value. And harmony change, it's not too dense, so half note change, and many preludes of Bach written in 4/4 can be considered to be in tempo ordinario. Even he was not indicating allegro. That should, in that time, so way before what we're talking now, was obvious from the notation or from the character of the piece. So a joyful piece you would play a little bit faster, a sad piece in a sad mode you would play a little bit slower. So andante is something quite modern, not in this time anymore, but still considered to be a little bit slower than the tempo ordinario, so the middle tempo. So under 60, if nothing strange happens with the notation, which is the case here. You could even say that by the use of only triplets, Mozart increases this time signature again. See it like this. If you have an Italian tempo word, that's my understanding, then like for instance you have a presto in the last movement, we'll see that. Then you could say, well, that's as fast as possible. Why is he writing presto here in prestissimo like Beethoven does, for instance, in his first sonata last movement? But it's like saying you have, let's say you're driving a car and you are supposed to drive as fast as possible in the center of a village. But the limit, there's a speed limitation there in the center of the village to 50 kilometers an hour. So driving as fast as possible is 50 kilometers an hour. That's not 180 if your car can drive so fast. The speed limitations of the street that you have here, as this example in the center of the village, is the notation, the bar structure. So if you have 2/4 and is a kind of 4/8 notation, we cover that later, then presto doesn't mean the same as you would have in a kind of allegretto tempo. You see, that's a difference. So andante is also reflecting the notation, and here we have an open notation, so it's not too slow, but under this quarter note, and that is something 60, that's something like that. I can imagine. The mood you get, the effect is very seriously. It's very serious and very cantabile. Imagine that this is a soprano would sing, what the crescendo she would give and then fall with her voice one octave lower, which would be difficult. Mozart is imitating that. Also here, don't rush, just have this movement. Suddenly forte. Piano. Suddenly forte. It's Mannheim, München Mannheim. They love that, these instant changes of piano forte. And then you can do this. He's indicating that bow, accent, bow, stich, again. And then here we come to what I had always difficulties with, this. It's difficult faster. Again, Mozart, Leopold Mozart, the maximum tempo you can take, here is something like that. But it's very easy in this tempo. Piano. Forte, forte, piano. Also these sudden piano fortes, you need time to do that. You cannot do that if you rush. And now listen. For me, this gets so much meaning. This reaching to the highest note. You can wait as long as you. No, not as long as you want, but you can wait long. Let's try it out. was too long. Repeat in the left hand, not too much because we know the trick now. And then forte, piano, answer, forte energy. On the wrong, so it gives accents on the wrong beat of the bar, but that's of course the joy of the music. Down, 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 up. Melody, out. Forte. And now. Just nothing. Forte. The thing is that I've learned with playing this like that, and I don't know if I'm exactly now at those speeds, and I don't care, so to say. It's just for me, also those metronome numbers, interesting to learn to understand more, at least of how those people at the early 19th century played and saw that music. So assuming that this double beat theory applies, and I think it does. So what I've learned is that if you apply that, just trying it out, it feels weird at the beginning, certainly for slow movements, but continue with that, and you will find many places where you just feel that it's right. That you find ornaments, you find articulation indications, you find, like here, forte piano switches, that just feels so natural in that new tempo that you're discovering. And the trick then is to find a very calm inner, I would say in German they would say ruhig. It's not slow, but it's patiently, it's not the right word, but just waiting, like here. And as long as you feel that movement, going up, going down, heavy beat, light beat, you can go as slow as you want. But don't rush at those places, that's at least what I learned. Don't try to make it more exciting by just pushing it a little bit. The excitement is in the music itself, in the metrical, and now I'm talking about the performance. So the heavy beat, light beat, accentuation, that's the key to everything. You give energy by giving an accent. And that energy, you should use that at 100%. And then you will start feeling that music is flowing in a way that can be totally new and certainly unexpected if you started at the beginning slowing down these middle sections because of those metronome numbers. And then last thing is, then what will happen is that at the end you will start feeling that movement is fast, and sometimes you will occur places that you want to take it down even more. So that's really strange and very nice. Also here this 16 notes. And listen now. That's Mozart. Imitation. Don't rush. But feel that movement, how that's present under. And now, cantabile. The orchestra stops, so you have here the freedom. Modulation now. Beautiful. So the beginning of this middle section in this andante is so incredibly beautiful. And I feel in this movement, I talk rather about movement and about tempo. Tempo, of course, is a thing we can measure. We can put a number. And hopefully in a way that people don't have to interpret it in 200 years and argue about it. But movement, it's the foundation of everything. Change the tempo is changing one element in your performance. It changes the articulation, it changes the effect, it changes the foundation, it changes everything. But once you hit that movement and you feel that there is a kind of perpetuum mobile, then you're good. Okay, then.
Martin asked, did you lengthen the B natural?
Did you lengthen the B natural in the first bar rather than play it as quaver? In the first bar, B natural. Yeah, you mean this? Yeah, I did, because I like it. So shame on me. No, but if you make it a long appoggiatura at the beginning, you inevitably have a dissonance with the B flat in the left hand. And you could argue that it might be a short appoggiatura, so avoiding that problem. In the repetition, he gives an 8-note appoggiatura, the W.A.Mozart Ausgabe. So I guess if you look at, this manuscript is preserved not for the first movement. It's difficult to see if that's an 8-note or a 16-note appoggiatura, but anyway, that doesn't make a lot of difference. But Leopold Mozart writes, avoid kind of strange harmonies. But I like that so much. I don't know. But a good question, really. Okay. So then third movement, very quick on that because we have to continue for this. I want to touch upon some elements of the second sonata, certainly. Here we have a very open structure, 2/4. So it's open, I mean by that, we've seen some 2/4 movements that are a little bit more dense in structure. And I've been talking on that in some videos, I think last month. I think that last part, I think that's the fourth one, that you have a difference between the 2/4 old style, quote unquote, where you have a kind of small alla breve, and the 2/4 new style, which is more condensed, has more rapid notes than 16ths, has more detail and more harmony changes, and that's actually a 4/8. There is a beautiful article by Fink. That's the same person who called upon Tomacek to give the metronome numbers for the Don Giovanni. I've made 2 videos on that to prove, so to say, that people were playing in 1830, 1840 way too fast. And surprise, surprise, those Tomacek numbers are so incredibly fast that even today nobody can. And certainly in opera, which is incredibly fast performances, you cannot believe that. I mean, if you dive into that, it's incredible. But even the Tomacek numbers are faster. So that's the same thing who gives an history about bar structure. It's incredibly interesting. I won't to grab a decent copy so I can share it with you, but all the copies I found on internet are very bad quality from scan. So, but anyway, here we have a 2/4 that's somewhere in between in the middle. It's not really a very open structure like you would have in yeah. If you go to Bach, you know this kind of something like that. So very open. You have more microscopic movements, like for instance here, but not so much as some other movements. So for instance, if you go straight forward, now that's a 3/8 to the, I believe it was the 4th one. Let's compare that. Here it is. Yeah, that's that. So you have here. So you feel also here. There's a lot more happening than in this open structure where you have just so you think a little bit more in quarter notes. It's not too fast though, because of passages like this. Because you need time to so if you would play this faster, then it goes so fast that much meaning is lost. It's very poetic, it's very romantic in a way. This music is really opening the way for the romantic era. I think I'll making a video on that as well, certainly with the second sonata. So this is reflection. This is using these fragments, using this. With Haydn, this would be a figure that he's working out. Mozart is transferring that into a kind of different effect, a different, and I would say even emotion. It's like Beethoven would, of course, do much more even, but this is the beginning of that. And technically, this is very difficult, very demanding, because you have the G in the left and the right hand, has a solution on the F sharp, but of course, the sound is disappearing. It's not a violin, it's not a voice. So you have to suggest the release of the F sharp. At the same time, you have this counter figure, and also in the left hand, kind of saucer figure. So all together. And then there's an ending. You need a little bit time to prepare for the next. So this time is really necessary without overdoing it, because then you break it. Then that's the difficulty in playing in those tempo ordinario tempi, is that if you hit that small thin line, then once you go down, it breaks. If you play way too fast, in my opinion, it still can, it's much easier to sound convincing. But again, I constantly have the feeling then of running behind the notes, and if I cannot understand it in my slow head, you cannot either. And I mean not by me and by you, it's just in general. If a performer cannot understand what he is doing, just running behind the notes, then the audience will not understand that. And it's by luck, I think, that the audience knows those works so well. But that's another topic. So there we go. And I also take a little bit of time here. You can add an oppositura if you want, I think. And I'm opening this. So there's an 8-note rest, but I wouldn't care. Just to wait until the energy is there. It's the same. You lay it down, and then you come down, but you can slow coming down. You can slow that down even. So let's demonstrate that. Okay, and so on. A lot here that I would have to say that here the releases are important. Also here you have time to end. So don't play it holding the notes too long because you get this. Okay. Then, rather quick through the second sonata. It's some elements that I want to touch upon. Let's talk about also here the tempo, the movement. Allegro assai, 3, 4, and my tempo is like this. So people would ask, yeah, Allegro assai is very fast, so but this is not very fast. That's true. But even, let's assume that we don't know anything about the Allegro assai. Let's assume we don't know anything about the rest of the piece. Let's just focus on the first 2 bars. And for me, there is this piece I have played, I think, exactly the same the second time as the first time. This is so big, this opening. You should have time and find time to make the statement. If you play it fast, then those 2 bars, first bars are over before you know it, and you run again already in another structure. So Allegro assai. Allegro means joyful, assai, in fact, literally, if you read Hummel, the piano school, but other sources as well, but Hummel is kind of related to Mozart. We should take it with a grain of salt because it's written much later. But there you find Allegro assai, it's very allegro, so very joyful, and that it is. And then listen, what happens then? A trill on the 16th note that you don't do if you want as a composer the piece to be played very fast. So that's a tempo, I think about 78, 76 for the quarter note. I should measure it. But this is from... There's a kind of time measurement there. And then the left hand, give energy, certainly on an early instrument like this. Just full power. Contrast. They really like that in Munich and Mannheim. And then. I like that so much. So, what a rhythmical differentiation Mozart has here. And then we go in, it's not even the second theme. Or maybe it is. Here where we start with the triplet. Yeah. I'm really bad in analysis. So I don't care also about the structure of that, but I should know. But that contrast there is so big. So imagine we have this. Big opening. 8th note. Energy. Contrast. 16th. Energy. Syncopa. Energy. And now triplets. Totally different world. Also here with accent. Dum, bum, 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 bum. And now left hand. Now that's a sentence. So this coming down, this chromatic is beautiful. And don't do anything, just give the accents and don't rush. Also suddenly for the piano. Beginning, trom, pom, enter with bow. So ya ya pa bam pa ya pa bam pa ya pa bam. Not like this. Contrast. Triplets, but with this three, so with heavy. Piano, legato. Contrast. Now releases. Contrast. So this is very important, that you release the note very carefully. So if you just make the note too long, you don't get this beautiful working here. It's like being in a globe and you have a light here, there. You don't know where it comes from. Cantabile. Left hand, question, answer. Oh, actually, second question. Oh, an explanation. Again. The dialogue. Now they go here, and also here in this passage, very important release. Agreement. So beautiful, where he speeds up this dialogue here. Also there, just give it a little bit of time. Don't rush. Don't play it, in my opinion, like this. So just seeing that as a kind of arpeggiating up to the highest regions of the instrument. No, it's a dialogue. Also here in the left hand, this comes so right on time. It should have a firm accent. It's a conclusion. And then, very challenging in this tempo, but I think it's beautiful, this middle section beginning. I sometimes hear that's a weak spot, but that's so incredibly nice. Risky also. So big contrast. How daring is that? Why not just using the impressive elements of the last movement? Continue with even what he was doing just before this, but now he's just giving this note in the treble as a kind of impulse, energy, piano. Question, answer. He's not agreeing in the right hand. Arguing. Taking over the arguments. So it's really storytelling. And for me, the key to this passage is just play it with a normal structure, heavy, light beat, like this. Not rushing. You come on the G by itself. Maybe just give the G a little bit. And take your time. That quarter rest in the right hand is so important, so don't do like this. Listen what the difference makes just stretching this timing a little bit. Always circular. Very static. Forte. Piano. There's a big question mark. Where is this heading? And then, yawn. So that's a big contrast with normally you should expect to have started the middle section with this. No, it starts very differently, and it's a beautiful climax. And then triplets. There you have them again. Forte. Piano. And of course, preparing for the... It gets a unity, I think, like that. So just check if I've missed something. I'm looking to Anya. There's...
Well, I'm looking also.
Okay. It's about instruments, yeah.
Yes, I asked what would they play.
Okay. So let's continue to the Adagio, because that's one of the most wonderful pieces of the whole bundle. It's only on, it's not yet released on YouTube, I think it's for, and so this actually is a premiere, so to say. So it's for Tuesday. But this middle section, again, same thing. I won't repeat the story that I've done for the middle section at the first sonata. So also here, I kind of reassessed my feeling or my idea on this piece, just having me, letting me inspired by those metronome numbers. Motionless is quite slow. Jenny is a little bit faster. Jenny is actually quite okay. But here at the beginning, F minor, forte beginning, there's a difficulty in the trill, because what do you do? The trill determines everything. You have to stop sometimes in order to play the D flat C. Motionless suggests to have a trill C B. I think he means in the German way. I don't like it. I don't like that. So I just make the trill with the upper note. I think makes sense. It adds to the dramatic effect. But then you have, and I will play it. So this movement of about 61 seconds for the 8th note, which I like. You come in the 16th note structure later. That is such a relief then. But what we've talked about in the first movement, this time stretching, this becomes, for me, the key to everything here. This is taking that and put it, I believe that's how I feel it, on the highest level of performance. This is really difficult Because if you miss one timing here, the atmosphere is dead and you will not be able to pick it up again. So the simplest solution is to just speed up, because then your lines become thicker. I believe also your emotional connection with the music and certainly with your audience becomes, I wouldn't say superficial, because there are so beautiful performances on that music in another way. I'm not judging on them, but it's another world. I'll just play it for you. Listen to the rests. You have 8 bars, and then you have 2 8 notes, and Mozart puts a big rest organ point over those rests. And if I succeed in the beginning, you need that before going to the 16th notes. So let's try. Energy. Forte, piano. So, starting like that after that pause is really something. So, the timing, for instance, of this note, you can play it just right on time. Oh. Just hold the release as long as you can, and then you have the listener with his attention for sure. And of course, the clavichord leans itself very well to have this note that you can almost. It's of course not this. The tone duration is much shorter than on a piano, but there is something that because the contact with the string is always there. You are in charge of the timing. And again, there's a technical issue. That's the movement of the wrist. We've talked about that. We'll make a series of videos, an online course even of basic keyboard techniques. But this movement of the wrist, as long as it moves, you feel the release. Actually, it's very simple in essence. And then these 16th notes, and again here with tempo, if you want to experiment with that, really do. Take 60 for the 8th note, and if it's very long, it's very slow, I would say, just continue. It will open for you. You will feel suddenly that it's speeding up in a way that you won't want to hold it. It becomes fast. Also here. All that chromatic. energy. And the feeling of this music is 1775. It's like those landscape paintings of the early 19th century where you have such lonely people and in the middle of it. It's of course the feeling of the nature, in English, going back to the nature, that the deep emotions of sorrow. That's what this music is about. And then at the end is incredibly here. Harmony. 17 years, 1770, 75. That's incredible. The difficulty on clavichord is that you have to keep this within the range of piano. And then suddenly here, this instrument wants to sound immediately. So keep it back, but still in this left hand, this bass note. So F louder than A. And while playing a melody within the piano rate. Because the clavichord changes, you should listen. That's statement, that's not, that's really weeping, you know. This is painful. The A natural you should hold that. It should release to the B flat. So it's really difficult, I can tell you. Long note, but remember, singer. So also here, the long notes, the difficulty is not in the long note, it's in when you play the release. If you play it right on time, like a computer, you kind of miss the point. Just pick it a little bit. Because it needs to sound as a release if you play it. Here. And now so beautiful chord here in F minor. Really dramatic now. Piano. And now, suddenly, shock. That's the ending. Very cantabile, right hand. Chromatic, payam. And that's the ending. Orchestra. The piece is over. It's just a reflection of what has been. It's like a storyteller who gives a summary of what was and gives you as a listener the time to reflect on what was. That's incredible. I mean, that's incredible music. And for me, again, I will repeat that a lot the coming weeks. The world goes open by taking also this notation and these metronome numbers for the slow movements. Correct. It's not easy, but you will come there. So I look at Anya if I missed some things about the middle section. Not really. So and then you have the last movement. We wrap this up because it's quarter over an hour. But it are two sonatas. So the last movement, presto 3/8 again 3/8. It's not a fast movement in that time. The same thing as with 2/4. Goes to 4/8. I will again find that article of Fink. It's so interesting. and 3/8 is in this structure, gives a lot of rhythmical changes, often with presto, but the presto doesn't mean play it as fast as you can. It's within that structure, bar structure, note value, notation, harmony. So, and we should maybe, the bar structure is giving, of course, the indication of what's the basic note value, in this case 8 notes, but harmony density, fastest note value, then you have already a lot that you can take into account to figure out what tempo you want to have. If you have very fast notes, like for instance here, I don't know, there are not. So, but if there are 30-second notes, the tempo slows down. That's the meaning of notation. So I have this tempo. So 3/8 pulse, every first 3 notes. It's different than 6/8 because then you have on the 4th 8 note a lighter pulse. So 6/8 is in my feel, to my feel a little bit faster. So 3/8, yum pum pum param. You feel the steadiness, 2 foot on the ground. Contrast. It indicates that Mozart. So slow slur. Articulation. So bow and then. So find a tempo where this is possible. Playing with the it's so nice. Certainly if you have an instrument that sounds a little bit in that region. Contrast. Left hand, legato. Padam, padam, padam. Not easy. You can play the right hand legato. It's not clear here for the score. But anyway, the top note should have a little bit of emphasis. Long accent. So make those. And now with the piano, forte, forte. And then very joke. I played them before the beat. It was a kind of grace notes, I would say. I don't know here. You can try it on the beat. It doesn't make too much difference. Also here, notes. So you have this polyphonic feel on the right. Here is melody and so don't. So it's forte, then piano, but within that forte and piano you should make a differentiation between the top notes and the repeated 16th notes. Of course, on the piano forte or on harpsichord you cannot do that. Sounds different like this. And of course the forte indicates an accent here, so keep it a little bit longer. And left hand here, give the impulse. Wait a little bit. And then comes 2 other pages, basically the same. Okay, long session. A little bit improvisation, as I was telling in the beginning, so I can dive into that so much more detailed, but at least you have a kind of feel, I hope, where my choices come from. So anyway, going to the chat, Beauty Academy, nice to have you here. So I see if I missed some names. Elena Gush. Yeah, she writes that it's so frustrating to have the sense of how things should sound when you listen to brilliant players, but not be able to produce that sound yourself. It's also a matter of technique. Again, I'm really going to work. Beginning of June, it should be online. A course, 10 basic keyboard techniques. I think that sometimes with little things, a lot of progress can be made. Just small things to adjust. And then, of course, it's not only practicing; it's mastering your instrument and translating what is in your head into sound of your instrument. Is that one of the reasons that I almost exclusively play on my clavichord is that it feels like a suit. We understand each other. I hope. Sometimes we don't, and I can tell you more about that. I showed first, nothing about the music of Mozart ever seems old, dull or tired, still fresh over 200 years later. Yeah, he is really amazing, and it's one of the last times that I'm busy with that music now. I'm playing that. We're moving to next month Beethoven Opus 14, number 1 and number 2. So May will be Opus 14 number 2, and June will be Opus 14 number 1. Really looking forward. My mind is shifting to Beethoven now, but it feels hard to say goodbye to Mozart. I know we're coming back to Mozart, but oh, that's so interesting, that world, and I'm so happy that I've done all 6. Yeah, Martin. Yeah, relaxing and tempo. That's just very personal. I prefer a bit more con moto, but not really faster. That's possible. I mean, you can have this motion a little bit in those elements, in those fragments of that pattern. That's up to your, of course, taste as well. You have to find balance in that. So, Elena, I hope you pronounce your name. In the midst of lessons, long term, keep working at that. There are a lot of things in common between you. Yeah, that's great. So don't hesitate to reach out for me. If I can, I reply on the comments on YouTube. It is. Facebook it's difficult because there are so many. Okay, just running through that. A little bit of Robin, it's another extraordinary instrument. Yes, it is. It is an extraordinary instrument, but also because I played so much on it, the clavichord really gets better by playing so often and much on it. But if I can, playing a concert just to finish that and answer a little bit of that, I ask an instrument from Joris, his own instrument, so that I can leave this at home. I'm always afraid of taking it with me. And if I once have a budget for that, I will ask Joris, the builder of the instrument, to build a copy of mine. Because he's changing always something. And as I said, we know each other so well. I cannot think about missing this instrument, so let's not think about that. Eileen. Okay, so I will remember that, Eileen. My name is very easy to pronounce, it's just Wim. Even in the United States, it's so rarely said wrong. Okay, it's late, here it is about 11 o'clock. So I hope you enjoyed this long session. Next live stream will be, well, the 1st of May there will be a schedule and video, so I don't know by memory, but there will 2 masterclasses in May and 2 in June, and we will have several recordings. It's only one sonata, but I will be recording that in several parts because it's Beethoven, it's bigger than Mozart. So we can talk further. Martin asked about the CPE Bach. Don't worry, it's on my list. So May will have 2 CPE Bach in pieces videos. Just have to prepare tomorrow. The last one will be recorded on Tuesday for release in in May, I mean. So we will have every second Thursday will be dedicated to CPE Bach in pieces over the next maybe 1 year. I have to figure out while we're going how I'm going to cover that. So the first episodes, for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, so the book Emanuel Bach wrote about the keyboard playing. Certainly the first part I'm focusing on now. I was planning to read that myself really in depth, and I thought why not share that with you. So there will be a series CPE Bach in pieces, so we will rip the book in pieces. First sessions will be about the index of the book and how we're going to proceed. And at the end of that, I hope to be ready to write my view on CPE Bach. And it would be a nice book, maybe as like we're doing with the partitas now, making a vinyl box CDs with the recording of the Probestücke. He has written several of them, 2 versions. Record them, perfect on clavichord, of course. And could be our second big project. And in between, certainly the Mozart will be recorded, the Munich Sonatas, for release on vinyl and CD, but there will be a smaller project. So don't worry, we're going to cover that.
Martin is glad also.
Yeah, and I'm relieved too. I have to say, this shift from the YouTube channel to go from randomly pieces every 10 days to a monthly schedule with dedicated to a composer of pieces like now, it was really one of the best decisions I could have made. I'm still not in front of everything, certainly not. We are having a wonderful time here together, but sometimes also a hard time. We're having a lot of projects, which is great, but we have to do them, we have to execute them. And so CPE Bach in pieces was really getting behind everything, and now I'm feeling I'm recovering that, and I can hopefully be a little bit more on top of things. So I'm looking forward to that, and we're going to introduce some other series as well as we go. A kind of nice thing would be, I think, historical voices, reading just a quote or short letter or just something that is sort of written from the original people that we study, so from Beethoven next month, and I'm just reading that. So there will be very short videos in between all the others, so things like that. And then of course the issue with the metronome numbers, we're going to Lorenz Guardian next week. We have a bunch of questions. We're going to make several videos on that, letting him answer and giving his view in the preparation of the new, he's going to rewrite that book in English, the book of him, Taktum Pendelschlag, and add all information that he has now, and we're going to have that published with an authentic sound. Hopefully next year, certainly next year, and hopefully beginning of next year. So that's a lot of work, but that's really exciting work, tying in directly to Beethoven. When the pianoforte is here, I will be starting first learning to play that instrument properly, and then probably from next year, January, February, playing all Beethoven works over the next 7-8 years, I believe. So it will be a wonderful project. Then we have the month project, but that will be an overall covering project. So anyway, I think that's enough for tonight. I thank you all for watching, staying here with me so long, and also indeed new people. Great to have this community expanded. I wish you a good night if you live somewhere in Europe, and I'm very bad in that, but depending on the place on the planet where you live, I wish you a good morning, good day, good afternoon, good night, good evening. So wonderful to have you here. Looking forward to meeting you for next live streams. And okay, see you then again. Bye.